Today we're going to look at printing. We're going to look at two different styles, kind of block printing with foam and a styrofoam lino printing. You can get loads of different effects with it. So yeah, let's go. You will need, we've got some sticky back foam, some cardboard, some styrofoam for our lino printing, sponges, scissors, acrylic paints, the fabric that you're going to use. We've got some scrap and then our proper fabric. If you can, grab some kitchen towel or loo roll, which would be really helpful, a pencil, something to cover the table with, some newspaper or some old scrap paper, and then paper to draw your design with. Let's get started. So the first kind of printing we're going to do is block printing. And this that we've sent you is sticky back foam. So leave that on for now and you can draw your design onto the back of here. I'm just going to think up a design first. I'm going to go for, and look at the colours that I have here. I'm going to make a tulip. I'm going to think about my design, and with your block print, what you want to think about is how the shapes sit together, because you want to have a gap between them so you can see the spacing. So if let's sort that out later, do something like this, and maybe a leaf. Maybe my tulip wants to be a bit bigger. Okay, I'm going to do something like that. So on the back of here, you're going to draw it again, and if you were doing a word, say I wanted to do a little J for Jamie, you can just draw it on the back of here the right way round, because you're going to peel it off here, it's going to get stuck to here, and then by the time you print it again, it will be the right way round. But some things don't really matter. So you can see that I've drawn it close together, but when I cut it out, I'm going to cut each of these bits out individually. So I'm going to take my cardboard, start and with my tulip, just check where it fits. Because I want these different colours, I'm going to do them on different blocks. So I'm going to stick this on first. And can you see I'm leaving a gap between them, and that way you get a really nice look. And then I'm going to cut this out. Don't cut it really close because you want a gap for your fingers to be able to fit. But so leave a little bit around the edge, but you can cut it out so it's kind of a similar shape to the thing that you're printing. And then I'm just going to put this leaf over here. Something that it's quite hard to tell what the top and the bottom is, just write, do an arrow, and I'd write top that way so you know, because then when I'm going to print these, I'll actually just get that a little bit closer to my foam here. Literally doesn't matter how neat the cardboard is because no one's going to see it. That's not what your design is going to look like. So then these are going to fit together like that on my design. Okay, so when you're ready to print, lay something, newspaper or something down so you can cover your table, whatever you're working on. I'm going to practice on my little practice piece here. First of all, I'm going to get my little paint palette. So I want to do yellow for my flower. And I want to do green for my stalks. I'm going to mix these two together, try and get a nice green. And then use your sponge, you can just dab that. Oh, that's a nice colour. Remember, you can add a bit more blue, a bit more yellow if you're not happy with it, or whatever colours. Maybe you're making orange with red and yellow, whatever colours you have. So use one sponge per colour, or you can always wash your sponge as well in between, but you would have to leave it to dry. And then I'm going to dab the paint. So my top tip is to dab the paint onto the sponge, but you don't want it to be like kind of lumpy when you put it on your printing block. So you kind of dab it. Try not to get too much around. Oh! See, I did that with the blob then. Whoops. That's what happens when you do it with the blob. So my top tip, when you're ready, is just to use the kitchen roll or blue roll, whatever you have, a little bit of newspaper, to just clean around the sides in case you got any ink anywhere else. You might like that effect where it's got kind of painterly around it, but if you wipe it off, then you get a much more clean, crisp print. So when you're ready to print, think about where it's going to go, push down and use like the back of your hand just to firm it down, peel it off. There we go. And I'm going to do the same. So get my ink, not too much on the sponge, dab it onto here. Okay, work out exactly where it's going to go. There we go. I'm really happy with that design. So you could even play around with overprinting. So I get my blue. My sponge, I'm just gonna do, I don't think I want to do too much of the leaf. If I do a little bit of paint on it and then try and line that up in the right place. I don't really mind if it's a bit out. Ooh, I like that. So you can see you can play around with loads of shapes, different things, different colours on your design. Once you've practiced, you can then do it on your square if you're happy with that one. So the second kind of printing we're going to try is more like a kind of lino printing where we carve areas away. You could do it so you kind of create a shape. Let's say I was going to do a leaf shape. Something really simple. I'm just going to cut that shape out of my styrofoam. Oh, it makes a good noise when you cut it. And then I'm going to do a kind of detailed design inside the leaf. Maybe it's more like a feather. Turn it into a feather. You can kind of create different textures. You can press harder on sections and then that'll make it all go down. You can press lighter. You could see if you've got any other equipment you could do the etching with. If you didn't want to use your pencil, you could use a compass or get a really sharp point. And then you can print like that. I'll do that in a second. You could also make a block with your like a kind of a traditional repeating block print. I'm just going to use my tape measure here to cut myself out a little square. I'm going to do it 8. By 8 here. I should be using a ruler really, but just pretend. So you could just do it like that, but you can also kind of think about how the design can repeat from the centre. So I'm going to measure 3 centimetres from here and do myself a little mark like this. Do 3 centimetres from here, do a little mark. So if I draw something, maybe a little spiky, I don't know what. So where these are at this 3 centimetres, they should meet up around the circle of the middle kind of thing. And I can do it again, measure another 2 centimetres up from that point. Do a little box. Okay. Spots. So I'm going to get ready to practice this. Start with my leaf. I'm going to use the green. So really rub these ones to make them stay where you want it. There. And you get a really nice textured print. So for this one, I'm just going to mark it on the back so I know that this is my important corner that I want to go around the design. Play around with colours on it as well. Move up into blue. And then load it up again with paint. So this is the important corner here. Oh, just enough room on my fabric. Really smooth it down. Ah! I love that! So do you see where I've measured? They meet up. I think one of the beautiful things about printing is where it doesn't print properly sometimes, that's kind of quite a nice effect. Doesn't bother me anyway. Ah, love that. That is my lino printed design. If these get a bit full of paint, do soapy water, really gently wash them under the tap and then let them dry before you carry on printing. But you can give them a little wash as well. Just one thing to remember. Oh, I didn't cover the... Make sure you cover... So just one thing to remember, when you are printing on your real patch, you've done your design, you're happy with it, remember to leave your 2 centimetres, about your thumb, around the outside. Find the centre without marking out. You could do a little pencil dot or something. You can just fold it. So yeah, remember that a few centimetres around the edge will be lost. So I've just done a little example here. These little bits around the edge might not be seen once we sew it together. Once you're done, so don't worry about this for your patch too much. This is just a tip for when you, if you want to do this again, on clothes or anything. If you don't have an iron, don't worry with your patch because we can iron it when it comes back to the studio to us. But if you're going to use this printing method on other bits of clothing, or homewares, whatever you want to do at home, you want to iron it, you want to heat set it. So if you wash your acrylic paint now, it might come off, but if you iron it for about 5 minutes, really have quite a hot iron and iron to heat set it, and you can just iron on the back. It's not, I wouldn't iron straight onto the paint because you don't want to get, leave it to dry completely. You obviously don't want to get paint on your iron, just in case. But yeah, just iron on the back of it 4 or 5 minutes. I know it's a bit boring, but you really want to set it in with the heat. And have it on kind of like a cotton setting, if you on cotton, or as hot as it can go for your fabric. But yeah, as I said, if you don't have an iron at home, don't worry about your patch because they come back into us a little bit creased anyway. So we'll iron them and heat set them in the studio.